Hey guys, I'm Duggie Banas, and I wrote most of the music for Poultrygeist. I started working with Troma way back when Poultrygeist was just starting to be put into production. I'd heard on the radio, in fact, that their new film was going to be Poultrygeist, directed by Lloyd, and that it was going to be a political, social satire about the fast food industry, and also containing, of course, the images of zombie chickens coming back, killing everybody in a big bloodbath, lots of blood and guts. But the clincher was that I also heard that it was going to be a musical. Now, I mean, I know a little bit about Troma from the past, and I'm trying to visualize, all this, what this is going to look like with the zombie chickens and the blood and the guts and the musical side of things. And I thought, man, how do I get involved in this? Sign me up. So I went and I took some of my songs, put them on a CD, and sent them off to Troma. I didn't know much about what the film was going to be like, or what they needed for songs, or if they'd even want me. So I sent them a few songs, and a week later I got a call from Lloyd saying that the guys liked the stuff, and immediately they sent me out a script, which I loved. I thought it was great. And from there we set about, I basically enlisted the help of my friend and collaborator Shaq. He's a lyrical genius, and between him and myself and the Troma guys, we started to go about writing some songs and writing some lyrics for these musical songs. So they gave us some general ideas on where they wanted the songs to go, how they're going to be about. And we started writing some lyrics, start at the top. And eventually, we send these things back and forth because, via long distance, emails, lots of emails, lots of long distance telephone calls. Because Shaq and I are living up in Canada, a couple of time zones away from the Troma offices out on the west coast here. So eventually, we go back and forth with these songs and try to hash them out. And soon I started writing some music for them, trying to make them as musical and as funny as possible with each rewrite. Eventually we got 8 or 9 songs done. Most of them didn't make it to the film, but that happens quite often. So eventually I wrote song arrangements for all of them, and I went and sang all the parts and played all the instruments on them. We ended up redoing the vocal parts because we wanted the actors to do all the parts, of course. But you had me. It was kind of funny. You had me singing versions with, I'll sing the general part and the Arby's parts, and Mickey and Wendy's parts, way up high in the falsetto. Singing the girl parts. But they needed something that they could hear. The actors could hear, what they were supposed to sing. So we made that. And eventually, I finished up the songs completely, sent them the instrumental versions. And I'll never forget that when the time actually came that the actors were supposed to go in the studio and actually sing their parts in the studio for the film. They did that, and I'll never forget this email I got from Gabe. He's like, "Yeah, we cut the songs today. They sound great. You got to check this out." So he sent me MP3s of these songs, and I listened to these for the first time with these guys singing on them. And man, I was squirming in my seat just listening to this stuff. Like, what are these guys doing to my songs? There's pitch problems and timing problems all over everywhere. And I begged these guys, come on, you got to redo these songs. Fuck, these are not good enough. But eventually I kind of relented. What can I do? The actors' personalities, are stronger than anything else. I mean, it makes up for their lack of technical singing ability. And nobody really cares anyway in the end, so it's good fun. But so anyway, that's my story about Poultrygeist. Well, hello there. Hey, I'm Duggie Banas, and I compose most of the music for Poultrygeist. I started working with Troma back right in the beginning of the production of Poultrygeist. I'd heard on the radio that Troma's new film was going to be directed by Lloyd, and it'd be called Poultrygeist. I thought it was a hilarious title. but I knew it would be about a social satire about the fast food industry, and of course the blood and guts and zombie chickens coming back to life, killing off everyone. But the clincher was I heard that they planned on making it a musical. And I thought, I'm trying to picture all this together in my head, how how Troma would put all this together. And I thought, man, how do I get involved in this? Sign me up. I'll never get a chance to do something crazy like this in my whole lifetime. You don't get a chance to do like this. Hollywood would never do anything like this, but don't get me started on that one. Anyway, I basically sent a letter out to Troma with a letter of interest, saying that I'm interested in hopefully working with you guys on this, something like this. And I sent him a CD of some songs that I've been working on. And I got a call from Lloyd a couple days later, and he seemed to enjoy the music. He thought it was pretty good. And I got a script in the mail a couple days later, which I loved. I thought it was hilarious. But we basically started to set about, writing some music and lyrics to these song ideas that they had. They were just little zygotes, little infant versions of the songs as they were going to be. So I enlisted the help of my collaborator, and he's a musical lyrical genius named Shaq. So him and I and the Troma guys, specifically Gabe and Lloyd, we started hashing together and brainstorming some ideas on where these songs are going to go. And they sent us some of their vague ideas, and we got them here. Tried making them as musical and funny as possible, and get some rhythm to them. But we'd send these things back and forth, and long distance, lots of emails, that sort of thing. Because we're up in Canada, here on the west coast of Canada. It's like 2 time zones away from the Troma offices, so that kind of made it a little difficult. But eventually, they started to turn into songs. I wrote some music to them, and I played all the instruments on them, and did all the voices as well. It's kind of funny because he had versions of me. I sent them versions of, say, songs where I'm singing the general parts and Arby's parts, as well as the female parts like Mickey and Wendy. All up high in the falsetto, trying to be the female voices. It was kind of funny. But eventually I sent them the finished versions. They're going to be instrumental versions, because we're going to get the actors to do the singing, right? Erase my voice. And I'll never forget the day that they went in the studio. They were going to actually cut the vocal tracks on top of the music. I got a call from or an email from Gabe. He's like, "Oh, we're all excited. This the songs that turned out great. They put all the vocals on there. You got to check this out. It's just awesome." So he sent me the MP3s of the version with these guys singing on them, and man, I'll never forget. I was just squirming in my seat listening to these songs, just like, what are these guys doing to my songs? Like there's pitch problems, there's timing problems. It seemed to me like they just kind of whipped it together on the spot. But man, I listened to these things, and I was begging with Gabe and Lloyd, come on, you gotta redo this. You have to do better than this, man. But in the end, I kind of relented, and the actors' personalities really made more of a difference than their lack of vocal skill. So that worked out okay, in fact. So I don't know. That's my story of working in Poultrygeist. Hey guys, I'm Duggie Banas here again. I just wanted to show you around my home studio a little bit. This is where we recorded most of the music for Poultrygeist. Most of the music in the film relied pretty heavily on synthesizers. I've got a couple of them here. They can generate more of the crazy, non-realistic type synthesizer sounds that you expect, right? Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, all of these units here will generate that kind of sounds, all kind of synthetic type sounds. But the real core of the studio, I think, is the hard disk recorder itself. Like, people nowadays don't really record with, reel-to-reel tape anymore. It's pretty much done with essentially computers, and that opens up a whole new world as well of realistic sounds that you can get. For instance, I use a technique a lot called sampling. That's, for instance, you'd have a violin player, put a microphone up against him, and record each of the notes that his instrument can play. Record that into the computer, and then I can then go tell the computer to play back those sounds with the computer here. So I play the keyboard and instant violin sounds, and they're pretty realistic if you do things right. I mean, you can sample any instruments, all the instruments of the orchestra, and have a whole, orchestra at your fingertips. It's great modern technology nowadays. But you can do, say, for instance, I really dig the upright stand-up basses, from the old jazz days, right? That sort of thing. And oh yeah, of course, drums. I mean, drums are sounding great nowadays. Right. So anyway, let's do a little demo here. I'll show you what kind of things you can do. Let's add some drums in here. All right. Add a little bass. Yeah, pretty good. Getting funky. All right. Add some synths just for fun. I like it. That's the idea. All right. Hey guys, I'm Duggie Banas here once again. I just wanted to show you around my home studio a little bit. This is where I recorded most of the music for Poultrygeist. Most of the score itself relied pretty heavily on synthesizers. I've got a couple of them here. They provide more of the synthetic, sort of non-realistic type sounds that you'd come to expect from the synthesizer, that sort of thing, craziness. Most of these instruments here generate synthesizer type sounds, so I have a pretty good palette to choose from. But probably the heart of the system, I would say, is the hard disk recorder. Like nowadays, people don't really use reel-to-reel recorders anymore. They don't use tape. It's all done digitally nowadays, and essentially with computers. And that opens up a whole new world of realistic type sounds that you can get. I use a technique called sampling. That's where you would say, for instance, have a violin player in a room, put a microphone up to him and record each of the notes that you can play on a violin. You can then put all that information into the computer, tell the computer to generate those sounds when you click on the keyboard, right? So for instance, I can have a violin sound. And you can sample any instruments, say, all the instruments of the orchestra, violins, bassoons, violas, timpani drums, anything like that. Have the whole orchestra at your fingertips. It's just great things you can do nowadays. You can also sample, say, I really dig the old stand-up basses, from the old acoustic stand-up bass, right? Pretty cool, pretty realistic things you can do. And of course drums, They're pretty cool. So let's do a little demo here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's add some drums. Pretty good. Add some bass. Nice. Add some. All right. Be funky. Add some keys. That's the idea. Pretty cool.